Hello and welcome. Happy Lunar New Year. Happy Year of the Ox to everyone. It's lovely to have everyone here. I am Indra Mungal. I work in the museum's education department, and on behalf of the Asian Art Museum, I would like to welcome you to today's virtual program and thank you for your support. Before we begin, we want to acknowledge that the Asian Art Museum sits on the San Francisco Peninsula and is located within the unceded territories of the Ohlone peoples, Ramaytush, and the coastal Miwok. We remember their continued connection to this region and give thanks to them as we live, work, and learn on their traditional homeland. We offer our respect to their elders and to all Indigenous peoples, past and present. Recording of this program will be on our YouTube page in a few days, and I hope that you'll visit it and share it with others who could not be here tonight. The Asian Art Museum has a wonderful Lunar New Year packet filled with art activities and videos. And here I'm putting the link in the chat box. It's got links to choice pieces in our collection that are pertinent to Lunar New Year and really great videos of our storytellers. So please check it out, and we'll post it periodically through the evening. So I want to thank you for celebrating Year of the Ox with us. And tonight we have poets Michael Warr and Chun as part of their Two Languages, One Community project. They will read works that reflect the essence of the new year, vanquishing the past, embracing new beginnings, and venerating ancestors. Calligrapher Aiqin Zhou will demonstrates her skillful calligraphy that is quite beautiful. As you will hear, each artist on this program is highly regarded and have won numerous awards and accolades, all richly deserved. We will take some questions at the end, so please feel free to put your questions in the chat box or the Q&A box. So I will introduce our wonderful guests. San Francisco poet Michael Warr is the 2020 Berkeley Poetry Festival Lifetime Achievement Awardee. His books include Of Poetry and Protest from Emmett Till to Trayvon Martin, The Armageddon of Funk, and We Are All the Black Boy. Other honors include a San Francisco Library Laureate, Creative Work Fund Award, Penn Oakland Josephine Miles Award for Excellence in Literature, Black Caucus of the American Library Association Award, and a National Endowment for the Arts Fellowship. Michael is the former deputy director of the Museum of the African Diaspora. Chun is an award-winning bilingual poet, graphic novelist, scientist, and translator. She is the author of Little Green, Growing Up During the Chinese Cultural Revolution, which has won multiple awards and is taught in world history and culture classes. She has received 2 San Francisco Arts Commission grants for her poetry and graphic novel projects. She holds a BS and MS from Peking University and a PhD from Rutgers University in biomaterials. She was a postdoctoral fellow in a Harvard MIT joint program, and she has a historical graphic novel in progress. I want to make a special mention that Chun was just named one of the Yerba Buena Center for the Arts 100, which is an annual list celebrating everyday heroes for their extraordinary commitment to building sustainable, equitable, and regenerative communities. And they work tirelessly in pursuit of racial equity and using art and activism to heal and bring us together in spirit, which we need at this time. So congratulations, Chun. Aiqin Zhou is an internationally renowned artist, calligrapher, and poet. She's a living treasure of China and began art and calligraphy studies in Shanghai at the age of 5 years old with renowned artists. At the age of 13, she won the Shanghai Art Museum Award for brush painting and calligraphy. 11 years later, she won the highly competitive full scholarship award issued by leading graphic art school of China, the Shanghai Art Institute. Zhou is an artist member of the Chinese Societies of Fine Arts and Calligraphy and of Japan's Societies of Fine Arts and Calligraphy. Among those other many important accomplishments, Aiqin's 2004 Chinese watercolor portrait of President Clinton and Hillary, entitled Visualize a Bright Future, now resides in the Clinton Presidential Library's private collection. And we want to make a special thank you, all of our panelists tonight. We want to thank Aiqin's son, Andrew Collins, for making the videos that you will see of Aiqin doing her calligraphy. So without further ado, I'm turning it over to Chun. Welcome. Oh, you have to unmute, sorry.
Well, welcome everybody and Happy New Year, 新年快乐. We are so excited celebrating this with the Asian Art Museum. And thank you, Indra, thank you, Alison, and thank you for the museum for making this possible. And this is a wonderful beginning of a new year after such a challenging 2020 and with so many difficulties and even heartbreaks. But now we have a new spring. As a matter of fact, yesterday was a very important Chinese festival called Chun, which is the actual beginning of the spring. And according to the history records, that actually for a couple of thousand years, Chinese celebrate the beginning of the spring, Chun, as one of the most important holidays and festivals. But later on, about 100 years ago, the Spring Festival is also moved to the 1st of January of the Lunar New Year. But now we are actually the second day of the new spring, and so we are going to be walking into the year of the metal ox. In Chinese, it's called 金牛. It also means the golden ox. So it's extremely auspicious, and it only happens once every 100 years. And the ox is in Chinese culture represents a lot of wonderful things. It's ox is very diligent, hardworking, and full of integrity. And we can rely on a being like ox. And in many Asian culture, I think around the world too, ox is has very auspicious meanings too, and it's even a sacred animal, sacred beings being worshipped in some cultures. And the Lunar New Year in general is also celebrated by a few, I mean, beyond Chinese culture. I think Korean culture and Vietnamese culture and a few other cultures also celebrate this year. So, and even in Western culture, we talk about the market. It's the bull market, right? It should be good. So we're here really to celebrate together with you. And also in Chinese culture, we celebrate the new year with poetry and calligraphy. It's a huge part of it. And I think we are really fortunate to have Aiqin's beautiful calligraphy with us today. And in Chinese has a very long history of poetry. And one of the most fortunate thing is I can read a Chinese poem from more than 2,000 years ago. I can make that connection. And today, through our program, we are going to make that connection again with you all. And we are also so happy to be celebrating the Black History Month with poet Michael Warr. And he and I had collaborated for a long time. We bring the Chinese American and African American communities together through poetry writing and storytelling. So shall we proceed with Aiqin's beautiful calligraphy? So one of the most important things that every Chinese knows is that we celebrate with this very special calligraphy called Chun. Chun means spring couplet. They are normally, I mean, they are lines of poetry, and often with good wishes for a new year, family, love, and also deep philosophical thoughts. And the piece Aiqin is doing here are two lines. The first line she is writing is 上善若水. It is the line from the very famous Book of Tao by Lao Tzu, or some of you know it as Tao Te Ching, or the older translation will pronounce it as Tao Te Ching. And this line talks about water. And the translation of 上善若水 is the highest good is like water. And Tao Te Ching was written about 2,500 years ago. And it is one of the most translated books in the world, right next to the Bible. And I'm actually leading a group of American or international group in the Bay Area studying Chinese culture. This was our first choice. And some of the members of the group are here. I welcome you and Happy New Year to you all. And the second line is 厚德载物. It's from Aiqin, which is originally, a divination manual in the Western Zhou period, which is even earlier than the years of Tao Te Ching. And the meaning of the poetic line is great virtue carries all things. Yes. Wow, that's beautiful. So normally we will post this on our front door. It's a must-have for every family. And many families who have scholars who will also write their own lines of poetry. And they will, my father, he's a calligrapher. He does this every year for my family when I go home. And sadly, this year, I'm separated from my parents, like many, many of us. We are, due to the situation now, we cannot be with our family. So it is extremely meaningful to be able to celebrate this with you all. And so Aiqin is doing her signature, which is the final step. The other thing as a child, I remember, I mean, I enjoy the most is the first day of the new year. We children will run around to whoever, as many families as we know as possible, to wish them Happy New Year, and then they will give us candies. So we are loaded with candies by the end of the new year, and then we trade at night. It's my favorite activity. Wow, thank you, Aiqin, for bringing such profound message to our new beginning. So that again, the two lines, 上善若水，厚德载物. The highest good is like water. Great virtue carries all things. It says China, Chinese New Year. Oh, 中国新春 Chinese New Spring. That is Aiqin's beautiful signature of her name, Aiqin. Wow. Thank you, Aiqin. That was wonderful. That was really, really beautiful. Thank you. We're so thrilled. So, yes, I think now we will move on to my slides. Oh, and the first one. This is a later slide. Yeah, keep going, please, keep going. Yes, so first I would like to again introduce our two languages, one community project that Michael and I started a few years ago. We met in the public library, Friends of the Public Library's poetry reading series. We are both poets reading that series. And Michael always wanted his poems to be translated into Chinese, I heard the first time I met him. And then immediately we start working on that. And we had such a great time. And he also, he's a wonderful editor. He also gave me amazing, great feedbacks for my own poetry. So through that, we learn a lot about each other's culture. And we had this workshop called Catching Memory with the Oakland Asian Culture Center, in which we invited writers from both communities to join us. We have a book. This is our book cover, and with our beautiful mother's photos on it. So you will hear more about it. Some of the work we are going to read here are from this particular project. Next slide, please. So I feel today is a miracle. Like I feel almost every day is a miracle because I was born at the beginning of the Cultural Revolution in China. During a time my country was quite isolated and never in my, and this is, so I wrote this book about the entire childhood of myself growing up during the Chinese Cultural Revolution. It's called Little Grain. And it's currently being taught in schools, in world culture and history classes. So never in my wildest childhood dreams, I thought this day would happen. So, but here I am. And so, yes, so please, next slide, please. So this first poem that I am going to give you is about, family love, which is so important in our New Year's celebration. In China or around the world, Chinese people will always do anything they can to go back to be with their family for the Chinese New Year. You hear amazing stories. People travel in the snow for, in the traffic, maybe for 20 hours straight on the road or on the train. And so people get interviewed on those crazy trips. They're asked, why do you have to go through this just to be, to another city and with your family? And it's sometimes you actually even miss the New Year's Eve dinner. And some people would say, well, if you cannot share such moments with your family, what is really there in life? What do you live for? So it is very, very moving when I hear that every time. But as I said, I myself and many of my friends here have our parents and grandparents, or some, children too, in other places. Even if you live in America, I have many friends who have parents in other states. They couldn't see them. And so this day, I want to give you this poem. The map is actually also should be called The Map of Love. When I was born, your bosom was a map. I occupied all of it in your cradling arms. When I began to walk, your eyesight was a map. I learned my steps, toddling and waddling in your adoring gaze. When I started school, your mind became a map. I ventured out and back, morning and night, in your unceasing care. When I grew up and left home, from hometown to other towns, home country to other countries, your heart became the map. I searched far and wide, high and low, for my direction and place in the world, in your loving thoughts. Each time I set out for a journey, you asked for my destination, studied an open map, and accurately located the point of my being. Then one day, you picked up a magnifying glass, eyes moving closer and closer, hands trembling more and more. Finally, at a loss, no longer seeing clearly the lines and points on the map, you hold me in your heart. Growing older and older, you can now only walk in my eyes' sight. Fumbling steps, every trip outside, an adventure. From now on, I will walk by your side so you can lean on me when we are at a loss, not knowing where to go. Love is the map. And next, I will read the Chinese version of this poem. 地图，刚出生时，你的怀抱是一张地图，我是那地图的全部，在你的怀抱中。 刚走路时，你的目光是一张地图，我在那地图中摇摇学步，在你的注视中。上学时，我走出了家门，你的脑海是一张地图，我在那地图中朝出暮归，在你的牵挂中。长大后，我离开了家，从故乡到外乡，从祖国到异国，你的心是一张地图，我在那地图中摸索方向，寻找位置，在你的想念中。每当我开始一个旅程，你总会打开一张地图，询问我的去处，时时准确地找到我的所在。后来，你拿起了放大镜，眼睛离地图越来越近，手抖得越来越厉害。终于，茫然中，你已经看不清地图上的点与线。我在你的心里，渐行渐慢。有一天，你只能在我的目光里蹒跚。每一次出行都是一次冒险。从此，我将把你搀扶在我的臂弯。当我们茫然不知所向，爱是一张地图。Thank you. May we all be united with our beloved families, no longer how far away they are now. I believe that day is going to come in the year of the golden ox. So I will read two other poems next. So one is called Poetry. And in this poem, I will acknowledge my ancestors who, as I mentioned, to this day, we are still connected with their poetry. And actually, I wrote this poem before I met the Syrian poet Adonis. He's a great poet. He came to Nanjing. Before that, I was visiting China, my parents in Nanjing, just this last trip before I traveled all the way back during the early time of the pandemic. But he came to China. His poetry was very popular in China, and I read his poetry, and I thought about my ancestors and all of our ancestors around the world who wrote poetry for thousands of years. So through this poem, maybe we can all be connected to them and also between ourselves, among ourselves. Poetry. Poems are birds flying in the kingdoms of languages, always towards each other and a paradise. Poetry is a time tunnel through which you and I see each other. Every year, the world is breaking apart. Every year, love would not end. Poetry puts death behind you, you in front of my eyes. Our faces remain the same. Poetry turns the past into now, now into the past. Our breath remain the same. When poetry loses the borders of languages, you and I fall into boundless silence. Our eyes remain the same. Together, perhaps we hear the sound of the universe. Together, perhaps we are in paradise. Now the Chinese version of this poem. 诗歌，诗歌是语言国度里的鸟儿，总是朝着彼此和天堂飞去。诗歌是时光的隧道，让你从远古和我对望。山河年年破碎，岁岁情深未了。诗歌把死亡放在了你的身边，把你放在了我的眼前，面色如初。诗歌把过去变成了现在，把现在变成了过去，气息如初。当诗歌失去了语言的边界，你我落入无边的静默，目光如初。或许我们一起听见了宇宙的声音，或许我们一起就在天堂。Yeah, I feel we are in paradise, at least for this moment. And so, yes, I'm just so grateful to be with you all. Just want to say that again. So the last poem I'm going to read is called The Lighthouse. It's about the lighthouse in Marine Headlands, Point Bonita. I am sure many of you have visited it. It's one of my favorite lighthouses in America. And after I visited for a couple of times, I wrote a poem. But it was only after I wrote the first draft of the poem, I found out from Range, Dennis Link, I remember his name, that it is not recorded, but most likely a fact that the long tunnel led to Point Bonita Lighthouse was dug through with hand tools by Chinese laborers who, after they built the railway, it took them 6 weeks, and the rocks were so loose in there, and it's not safe to work on the tunnel using machine tools. So basically nobody else wanted to work on it because it could collapse anytime. So, but the Chinese laborers who, after building the railway, actually many of them died, who was buried along the railway. They came out, they were not wanted. So we all know the Chinese Exclusion Act, which is really a very sad piece of history. And the many Chinese generations of Chinese who came before me endured. I just here, I want to express my gratitude as the first generation of immigrants. And I fully understand and remember what happened in the past. And I want to use this poem to acknowledge, the hard work and they have done on this land and the love they also have contributed to the land and this country. So the lighthouse. An iron door opens to a dark tunnel through a giant rock chiseled a long time ago by bare hands and hand tools. Hands that came from across the ocean, hands that chiseled through the continent, hands that built the railroad Trans-America. A land these hands touched deeply, a land these hands died for, a land these hands survived, a land these hands grow to love and wanted to make home. The headland of the continent, America, a giant dark rock probing into the vast water, one side, the raging ocean, the other side, the calm bay. Entering the tunnel, the narrow pass, my mind engulfed by darkness and unknowing, floats in the suddenly edgeless universe. All senses seem lost, except one, that the world is split, one side the homeland, one side the land of home. Until after arriving at the end of the tunnel, I see on the tip of the rock, the end of the headland, bare in rain and wind, fog and cloud, sun and moon, is a lighthouse standing above the raging Pacific, like a heart beating to shine for both shores. Thank you all so much for listening. So this poem, I have a Chinese version, but for time sake, I would not read that. So next we will show you another piece of calligraphy work by Aiqin, a beautiful Chinese poem, 2 lines of the Chinese poem. So this is from a poem that's written around the 700 in Tang Dynasty. So our history goes really far back. Now we are celebrating a new beginning of 2021, but what Aiqin writes is from such a long time ago, 1400 years. And the first line is 海上生明月. The second line will be 天涯共此时. It's from a Tang Dynasty poet, Zhang Jiulin. The title of the poem is 望月怀远. Means looking at the moon, thinking about the person afar, far away, whoever beloved ones are far away. So 海上生明月 means from out of the sea, the moon is born or appears. Shen means giving birth, as the ocean is giving birth. And 天涯共此时. 天涯 means the edge of the heaven, edge of the world. 共此时 means share. 此时 共 means share. 此时 means this moment, which means the whole line means from the far edges of the world or the heaven, we all share this moment. Wow. That is so heartwarming and beautiful to see. Thank you, Aiqin. And these lines of poetry are known by almost every person in China. And the power of poetry is really, really amazing. It's a major driving force in Chinese culture. And we have many people in Chinese history, from common scholars to rulers of China, who aspire to become immortal poets. Only a limited number of people succeeded. But we have this amazing wealth of culture, heritage, and we can quote every day. And on this very day, how fortunate I feel again. Again, 海上生明月，天涯共此时. Out of the sea, the brilliant moon appears from the edges of the world. We all share this moment.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Aiqin. Now we give you Michael Warr. Michael, are you ready? You have to mute yourself. Unmute yourself.
I did.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Just 1 second. So I love that we have thousands of years of art to guide us. And I want to thank Chun for her presentation and for her poems, and thank Aiqin for her beautiful calligraphy and art. And thanks to her son, Andrew, for capturing her work on video. Very beautiful. And happy Lunar New Year to everyone in the audience. I'm thrilled that you joined us tonight. In our Two Languages, One Community project, Chun Yu and I often consider commonalities between the Chinese and African American cultures. And one of the strongest commonalities that we have found is that of family. And I understand that family gatherings and festivities are at the core of the lunar year, New Year. And many of our poems are about our parents. And since I want you to hear some of that writing in Chinese, I'm going to begin with two family related poems that have been translated by Chun, and she will recite them in Chinese. The first one is based on this image that you're looking at of my mother, Gaynell Warr. And I'll say a little bit more about her in the photograph after I recite this brief poem, which is titled Black Star. She got called Shinola outside her name, as slight against her blackness, by black souls caught, by lost souls caught inescapably in her dark attraction and blinded by her radiance in the sky. And I just want to say a little bit about this before Chun reads it in Chinese, that when I first saw this image of my mother, my first reaction was that she looks like a movie star. And as beautiful as she was, when people called her Shinola, it was a reference to black shoe polish. They meant it as an insult because of her dark skin. But you cannot deny beauty. And Chun and I found during our translation process that in China, the word Shinola is associated with luxury items like watches. And since that was because the company Shinola, which was known for its shoe polish, rebranded itself and started producing these luxury items. So the translation had to take that into account. It had to take that cultural difference into account, and making sure that the deeper meaning of Blackness and struggle was conveyed. And that's just one example of what we go through as we go back and forth in these translations. It really demands an understanding of the cultures, of both cultures. And so now Chun will recite this brief poem in Chinese.
Yes. 黑明星作为对他的黑的蔑视，他为那些失落在他无法逃脱的黑色的吸引力中，和被他在天空中耀眼的光芒照瞎了眼睛的灵魂们，称呼为希努拉斜游。Thank you.
Thank you, Chun. And this next poem focuses on my father. His name was Alcide Warr, and it's based on one of my earliest memories when I went to my first baseball game with my father. It's titled My Father's Favorite Pastime, and you can view the video version of this poem on our website, Two Language, One Community. My Father's Favorite Pastime. On edge of the darkest ghetto stood Candlestick Park, lit bright as an A-bomb's flash. With tiny hands, I turned the bazooka-scented baseball card of Willie Mays. Rows of shattering batting stats dispersed into smoke, while Willie stuck like skin, unforgettably black like my mother, whose schoolmates called Shinola, black like her son, who Abyssinians would one day call red black. In the shadow of America's spectacle, nothing mattered but blackness. Against the night's cruel chill, we huddled against the hawk, sipping Ghirardelli chocolate in search of baseball hearth. Fat with peanuts and Cracker Jacks, a white man sold us something silver, shiny, wallet-shaped, wrapping it in a velvet pouch, deep blue and fit for royalty. My father handed me the mystery, warmer than a Sunday oven, bringing mad joy to my hands. I kept that warmer for centuries in an unlocked chaotic drawer packed with memories, junk, imagination, the blaze in its metal guts, stealing even Willie's thunder. And I think that that is one of the first of my poems that Chun translated, and she will now share it with you in Chinese.
父亲最喜爱的消遣，在最黑暗的贫民窟边上，立着蜡烛台球场，像被原子弹的闪光照亮着。我用小手翻转一张带有巴茨卡口香糖香气的威利麦斯棒球卡，一排排击球统计已烟消云散，只有威力如肌肤般紧贴不去，像我母亲一样黑得难以忘怀。他的同学们叫他希努纳斜游，像我母亲的儿子一般的黑。有一天，阿比西尼亚的人们会将它定为红色的黑，仍旧在美国式眼光的阴影中，除了黑，其他都不重要。在夜晚的严寒中，我们相依顶着冷风，一边吸着吉尔德利热巧克力，一边寻找着棒球的家园炉火。一个因花生和焦糖爆米花而肥胖的白人卖给我们一样东西，银白色，亮闪闪，状如钱包，包装在一个皇家风范的深蓝色丝绒袋里。我的父亲递给我的神秘之物，比星期天的烤炉还温暖。 给我的手带来疯狂的欢乐。在一个没有上锁的抽屉中，我将那个暖手宝保存青年。我将那个暖手宝保存今年，充满着回忆堆积与想象。它金属胆中的火，甚至窃取了威力的风头。Thank you.
Thank you for your translations, Chun Yu. And I know that it's challenging and time consuming and creative work, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's worth it.
My final poem was influenced by writings and musings about the year of the ox, and two statements that I read really struck me. And the first one reads, "This year you will be granted the gift of problem solving." And this made me think that America needs the spirit, contemplation, and wisdom of the ox. And I wondered what I wanted solved. And so that's what this poem is about. The other piece of advice warned that while good fortune may come to you during the year of the ox, you cannot expect goodness to simply fall in your lap. Instead, you have to work to take advantage of the opportunities during the year of the ox. So I'm still working on this poem, and I probably will return to it throughout the entire year of the ox, but the working title is A Good Year. If this is the time for solving problems, then I hope, for the deluge of water carrying our wealth to wash the unwashed, for our trove of abundance to find the mouths of those wanting. This is the time to recognize the same reality, to hear when the unspeakable is spoken, not chiseled in stone, not sacred beyond our belief or our reach, succumbing instead to our collective desires in a time craving for celebration. We can be jubilation makers, foundation shakers, movers of mountains in our own, movers of mountains in our way, bearers of street peace, gatherers of a new day, dream dealers, wielders of what we preach, defenders of the right to simply be, soul and body healers, steering the thickness of our existence. This is a time for our liberation from lies and capturing social sunshine for a roof above the head of anyone needing sleep. This is the year for inhaling free of fear, of rags to riches when rags are disappeared. This is the time for hope fulfilled by our action. And thank you all for listening. I hope that you all have a good, productive, and promising year of the ox. And but don't go away yet. We have more for you.
Well, Michael, thank you so much. I want to, because your last poem, I want to give you and everybody here this Chinese idiom. It's called 牛气冲天. It will be mentioned a lot during the celebration. The first character is 牛, means the ox or the bull. 气 means energy, 气, the 气, right? And power. 冲天 means going up to the sky, rising up to the sky. So I think even we cannot predict the future, but we can rely on ourselves. As the ox is, we are diligent, we are reliable, we have amazing energy and virtue, and also virtue. We will prevail, I think. Definitely. Eventually. So that's that's a definite future. We are stubbornly determined for this future, as the ox will do.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you so much. That was stunning, beautiful. And I wanted people to be able to see Aiqin is here. She's going to show us something. She has something special to show us. So Aiqin, do you want to do that?
Oh, Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you for having me be share with everybody today.
wow.
This is my New Year inspiration by both poetry
Wow.
for Michael and Chen, and have translation the poem Chinese English and for the family history. And this is the month also, it's not only Chinese New Year celebration, and also celebration in United States for the Black history and for the culture. So I am so blessed by inspiration by both of you for the beautiful poem. Bilingual, it's the mom is shining to the world, and daddy and hobby like the baseball for like courage. Yeah. And I know my family and China and American family all admire for sports. Yeah, love sports. So I hope through the Asian Art Museum for celebration for both important for the new year and month of February to move forward. Maybe can travel to Beijing, the Olympus, or my hometown Shanghai, the like sport 10,000 people club Olympus will be shared for the wonderful poem.
We have some more demos over here.
About the classical poem, which is Chen was gave the great display for the classic of Chinese history. Right now, time is removed, so we wishing the Happy New Year, good wish for like a harmony. May full love shining into the world. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Aiqin. That is beautiful.
Thank you, Andrew, for doing that.
Yeah, of course.
Here's Chen, your map. So you and me, we are together, and I leave the signature for 3 of us together next time when museum open. So then have Chen your own poem to have signed. Michael English can also, yeah, we 3 together for waiting for. I'm waiting for.
I think I'm overjoyed. Thank you so much. Wow, what a gift.
Stunning.
Thank you.
The question we have, Aiqin, right now is somebody wants to know where to buy the red paper for calligraphy.
So where you buy it from?
Actually, thank you. Good. My family was shipping from Shanghai to here, so yeah, I was very lucky, and thank you for my Chinese family.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got to get someone in Shanghai. Okay. We have time for just a couple of questions. If you'd like to put it in the chat box or Q&A, and this recording will be on our YouTube page in a couple of days. And this was such an amazing evening. The comments in the comments box, if you haven't read them, artists are really heartfelt. And I think you have sent us off for this Lunar New Year in such a beautiful, majestical way. We want to thank you. Oh, someone says Amazon has the paper. There you go.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Try it on Amazon. Well, if there are no questions coming in because it is past time, I would like to have a deep bow of gratitude to each of you. It was a pleasure working with you, listening to you, and seeing your process. And on behalf of the Asian Art Museum, we feel very blessed to work with you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
We'll have to do it again sometime.
Yes. Well, Happy New Year! 新年快乐！祝你心想事成，万事如意。
Someone said this feels like a family gathering. That's great.
That's what we want.
Thank you. Thank you so much, all of you. Bye-bye, everyone.